Apple always tend to oversell its products at launch, especially their cameras and improvements to them.
Now, let's talk about the all new iPhone 13 Pro camera system. This is our biggest camera advancement ever.
Usually it is warranted, but it's never really head and shoulders above their Android counterparts. Today, we decided to test Apple's claims about the cameras and see how it holds up on one of the best systems running Android, Samsung's Galaxy S21 Plus. Hey guys, this is Ananthan from C4 Tech and let's roll. With next gen hardware and super intelligent software, they have gotta be the best cameras on a smartphone. Are they powerful enough to take on the Android flagships? We went around the city and tested out cameras in various settings with different lighting conditions. The additional camera features like wide angle lens acting as a macro camera and cinematic mode are finally present on the iPhone. They have caught up to Samsung camera gimmicks, so we are gonna go all out and compare all different camera sensors and modes between both the phones. Let's talk about the primary sensors. The iPhone 13 Pro Max comes with a 12 megapixel sensor with a pixel size of 1.9 microns. The optics covering the sensor is a 26 lens with an aperture of f1.5. The S21 Plus 2 comes with a 12 megapixel sensor with a pixel size of 1.8 microns. Here we have a 26 f1.8 aperture lens. Since both sensors are 12 megapixels, it's a fair comparison here. Let's start with the daylight images. Initially what separates these two phones is the clear difference in the colors. The iPhone images are much warmer and the photos from the S21 Plus are on the cooler side of things. Let me be clear here, the colors on the images shot on the iPhone look more natural and the S21 Plus pictures have the trademark saturated colors as you've all come to expect from Samsung. But the truth here is that none of the colors are anyway close to what I've seen in my own eyes. The images at a quick glance seem to have similar amounts of detail, but when you zoom in, it's clear that the snaps from the iPhone are much more detailed, whereas the images from the S21 Plus look fuzzy when you compare them side by side. Even the dynamic range is better on the iPhone shots. Look at the rocks in the foreground here. The shadow detail is preserved much better on the image shot on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. Take this other scene as an example. A bright sunny day with dull grey skies. The highlight detail is pretty similar on both phones, with the grays being a little muddy in the 13 Pro Max image. The S21 Plus on the other hand handles both highlights and shadows well. Look at the shadows underneath the slide here. There is much more detail and less digital grain to be seen. Even though the iPhone 13 Pro performed really well under daylight conditions and gave tough competition to S21 Plus, due to the way the Apple's algorithm handles exposure, few high dynamic shots might turn out to be underexposed like this. Hey, there is still a lot of detail here and you can edit it to be well exposed in post. But users who aren't too savvy might be disappointed with these silhouette-esque photos. Portraits turn out really well on both phones, but I prefer the photos out of the iPhones for better colors, skin tones and sharpness. When using the portrait mode though, both phones can be hit or miss with the fake background bokeh. Selfies too are pretty good on both phones, though the shots on the iPhones are wider compared to the ones shot on the S21 Plus. The dynamic range is well maintained on both phones, even when we take selfies in backlit situations. So it's a tie here. Jumping to the ultra wides, the iPhone 13 Pro Max does a noticeably better job here. The detail levels are at par with the primary sensor and you wouldn't see much difference jumping from the primary to the ultra wide sensors while taking photos. Even the color shift is very well maintained. As I said, even if the colors aren't true to life, they stay consistent throughout the range, which is a big pro in my opinion. The S21 performs well with respect to color shift, but it lacks detail the iPhone has to offer. When looked side by side, you can see that the ultra wide camera on the S21 Plus distorts a bit more than the 13 Pro Max's camera, even though their field of view is exactly the same at 13 full frame equivalent. Take a look at this image here. The pillar to the left looks distorted in the S21 Plus's image, whereas it's straight up in the iPhone's picture. While we are on the topic of ultra-wide cameras, the ultra-wide sensor on both these phones pull double duty as macro cameras. Both phones don't have dedicated macro modes in the camera app. The software just detects when you get close enough to the subject and automatically jumps into the macro mode. The macro shots out of both these phones are decent, but the S21 Plus's camera gets a little closer to the subject. That's basically due to the optics with better minimum focusing distance, thus giving higher magnification ratio. The autofocus though is hit or miss. The macro shooter on the S21 Plus struggles to latch focus onto moving subjects, thus getting out of focus images from time to time. The iPhone's macro camera is decent too. Even if the shots are wider compared to the S21 Pluses, when you zoom into the same level, the 13 Pro Max's shots are equally sharp. So that's there. Now let's go take a closer look at the telephoto lens. The Pro Max gets a 12 megapixel telephoto sensor that has 3x optical zoom, whereas the telephoto on the S21 Plus is a 64 megapixel sensor which has an optical zoom range of only 1.1x compared to the primary sensor. Samsung here is using the high-res sensor to digitally crop into the images and apply software trickery to make the images look sharp. They call this hybrid zoom. The photos do look sharp out of the S21 Plus, but the 13 Pro Max yet again takes the cake for better pictures. As they say, there is no substitute for good optics. Looks like the S21 Plus here is having a pretty tough time competing with the iPhone 13 Pro Max's cameras. So let's see if the cameras can get a leg up on iPhones when it comes to low light. Disclaimer, the iPhone doesn't have a dedicated night mode in the camera app, which the S21 Plus has, so there is no way to enable it manually. Therefore, we are gonna shoot regular mode photos on the S21 Plus unless the iPhone switches to night mode to keep things fair. The 13 Pro Max yet again destroys the S21 Plus's cameras in low light scenarios. Both the phones have image stabilization, but the iPhone seems to do better using the sensor shift technology compared to the optical image stabilization on the S21 Plus. Look at this image. Even without zooming into the picture, it's clear that the image out of the iPhone is sharper. Look at the sculpted hoses on the building here. They are much sharper on the image out of the iPhone 13 Pro Max. They are both captured at the same shutter speed, which is 1 by 25th of a second. But the image on the iPhone 13 is shot at much lower ISO thanks to the f1.5 lens compared to the f1.8 lens on the S21 Plus. I'm guessing the sensor shift technology had something to do with this too. As for video performance, the S21 Plus here can shoot 8K 24fps videos, but it ain't that stable. Since the primary on the S21 Plus is a 12 megapixel sensor, you can't practically shoot 8K videos out of that. So the S21 Plus uses a 64 megapixel telephoto sensor to shoot 8K video. As a result of that, the 8K video is zoomed in to 3x. So if you want to shoot beautiful landscape in a wide frame and make use of the 8K resolution, you can't do that. And that's a bummer. When it comes to regular 4K video performance though, videos out of both phones are pretty comparable. The stabilization, the colors, the autofocus, and how the cameras handle the exposure are really good, and both phones don't disappoint as much. I personally wouldn't mind using either device for creating video content out of a phone. For more stability, you can switch to Super Steady on the S21 Plus, which dials down the resolution to 1080p 60fps but gets more stable footage compared to the 13 Pro Max. Okay, let's now talk about Apple's newest and biggest camera feature, the cinematic mode. It's basically portrait mode video where the software intelligently racks focus between the subjects for you to get the shots you usually see in movies. In all fairness, you can change the focal points after the shot too. The Galaxy series of phones actually had this feature for a few years now called the portrait video without the intelligent focus racking feature. I actually prefer the edge detection better on the S21 Plus compared to the 13 Pro Max here. The selfie videos too turn out pretty good from both the phones. They are sharp and detailed with good colors. Gun to my head, I would choose the iPhone to shoot selfies because the footage is a tad wider here as we saw with the selfie photos. Bottom line, as we have come to know for years, Apple continues to dominate the smartphone camera race due to better optics even though the competition keeps coming up with new tricks and software features. Both the phones performed pretty well in all testing conditions, though the iPhone kept coming out victorious every single time with the better shot. That's attention to detail. That's research and development put into a single lineup of flagship devices every year. That's the secret sauce to Apple's winning recipe. So there you have it. The iPhone 13 Pro Max versus the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus cameras compared. What do you guys think about the performance? Did you guys expect better performance from the S21 Plus? Do you want us to compare any other phone with the 13 Pro Max? Let us know in the comments below. And with that, we get to the end of this video. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more such videos. This is Anandan from C4A Tech, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one. Ciao.